Jinbe and Arlong have been linked ever since chapter 69 of One Piece, when Yusaku explains how he and the Strawhats were headed to Arlong Park, where the fishman Arlong rules. And Arlong is seen as a serious problem, just off the strength that he used to run with Jinbe, who was a warlord of the sea at this time. But Jinbe and Arlong go way back, and are truly two sides of the same coin. Growing up in the Fishman District, Jinbe and Arlong both grew up in the Fishman District of Fishman Island. That's basically like the hood or the projects of Fishman Island, where there's a lot of crime and poverty. Neither had it easy growing up. In fact, it's implied that they both may have grown up together on the Noah, the ship of promise, as it's implied that it used to be an orphanage. Arlong had a father that he barely saw and pretty much disowned him, and Jinbe, we don't know anything about his parents. The big OG of the Fishman District was always Fisher Tiger. He's the one that they both looked up to as their big brother. But specifically in the case of Arlong, his relationship with humanity didn't start off all bad. As a kid, he would actually swim up to the surface frequently to take sneak peeks of Sabaody Park, which is the amusement park that's on Sabaody, which is located directly above Fishman Island. And this place made such an impression on him that later on in the story, when he created Arlong Park, he basically made it in the image of this amusement park. But as he gets older, you can see that his viewpoint changes on humanity and pretty much does a complete 180. Not so different in view. 15 years prior to the current story, we see that Jinbe and Arlong have walked very different paths. Jinbe had become a member of King Neptune's army, while Arlong had started his own pirate crew as the Arlong Pirates. Fisher Tiger would often leave to adventure the seas. His counterpart in this flashback is Queen Orihime, who believed in bringing the fishmen to the surface to be able to experience the sun and live amongst the humans. One day she's trying to get signatures for her petition, and we can see that at this point, neither Jinbe nor Arlong understood her cause. Jinbe thought that her goal was foolish based on the history of humans and fishmen, while Arlong just straight up hates humans. And it's understandable why they thought this way, when fishmen weren't even seen as people by humans until like 200 years ago, and most fishmen don't know much about humans and vice versa. One of the most recent memories of this time overall of humans is the fact that pirates savagely ravished Fishman Island at the beginning of the Great Pirate Era until Whitebeard protected the island under his flag. Even so, Jinbe didn't love Arlong's brutish ways. A band of brothers. Fisher Tiger was an adventurer hell-bent on seeing the world and seeing how he can make a change for the fishmen. Whenever he would return to Fishman Island, Jinbe and Arlong welcomed him back with open arms. One day, Fisher Tiger returns after single-handedly attacking Marijwa, and his younger homies all drop what they're currently doing and join him. All branded with the symbol of the sun, so no one can tell who was a former slave, the Sun Pirates were born. When they are attacked at sea by Marines seeking the return of escaped slaves, Jinbe and Arlong don't hold back in the fight. Fisher Tiger actually had to stop Arlong from killing one of the Marines. Jinbe and Arlong don't understand why Fisher Tiger cares so much. In Jinbe's mind, any necessary force should be allowed on people who want to take their lives. Tiger explains that they are not in the business of killing humans. Revenge isn't their purpose. It's liberation of oppressed fishmen. Jinbe is mainly like, why should they have sympathy for those that would wish to kill them? But Tiger sees that as just lowering themselves to the level of the humans. Arlong is just straight up racist with it and suggests mass genocide to solve the problem, which prompts Jinbe to slap fire out his ass. Later, Fisher Tiger admits that Queen Orihime's way of seeking peace between humans and fishmen was truly the ideal that they should strive for. A change of heart. 12 years ago during their journey, the Sun Pirates would meet a young human girl that would change everything for this crew of fishmen. This girl is Koala, an 11-year-old girl who was saved from slavery during Fisher Tiger's raid on Marijwa. The locals of an island ask the Sun Pirates to return her to her home. They begrudgingly agree, but it's clear from the jump that they don't like having a human on board the ship. This is especially true for Arlong, who lets his displeasure be known and even hits Koala. This activated like a fear response in Koala, where she starts cleaning immediately and makes note of the fact that she's not crying. This moment leaves a huge impression on Tiger and Jinbe. In Tiger's case, he's reminded of the horrors he himself had to endure and witness at the hands of the celestial dragons, proudly yelling to her that it's okay for her to cry if she's sad or feels pain, while vowing to take her home. In Jinbe's case, this opens his mind to the possibility that many humans may just act out of fear and not some superiority complex that they hold over the fishmen. The Fallen Brother. As they journey to Koala's home island, the Sun Pirates begin treating her as one of their own. It's clear that she's still suffering from PTSD, as she has a nervous habit of cleaning. Aladdin understands that with the trauma that she suffered, it will be hard for her to break these habits. Arlong, being the complete dickhead that he is, says, "I guess you former slaves understand each other," and reiterates that she's still a human after all, and he's sure her parents taught her to look down on fishmen, just like the rest. Arlong reminds the Sun Pirates of the scornful looks that they are given whenever in the presence of humans, and that they need to have that look wiped off their face. But then a nigga with a brain and discernment interjects, being Jinbe, and Jinbe says that truly, that look has always felt more like fear than scorn. And he asks Koala if it's because they're pirates, and she says it's because the humans are ignorant and just don't know anything about fishmen. Which, if fishmen were only seen as humans 200 years ago, and mainly reside on Fishman Island, a place the majority of humans will never see, you can see where this fear of the unknown comes from. Especially when there's a bunch of NBA player height people 10 times the strength of humans looking down to you. This is the moment that Jinbe truly internalizes those words that Queen Otohime said about them knowing next to nothing about humanity. And he thinks to himself, maybe things can change if humans and fishmen commingled more. Eventually, they reach Koala's home island, and we get the lovely reunion of Koala and her mother with Tiger's farewell. And it's at this time that we see the stark difference in Arlong and Jinbe, because Arlong's mindset really hasn't changed. He still believes that eventually she will grow up to be like the rest of humanity. And even worse, there was actually a trap set by the Marines, and while the Sun Pirates do escape, Tiger suffers serious wounds. On a stolen Marine ship, Fisher Tiger is bleeding out and reveals that he was actually a former slave, and he fought for his own freedom and the release of all those slaves because he had seen the true evil of humans, although he agrees that Otohime has the right idea of wanting humans and fishmen unified. His cold heart wouldn't allow him to receive human blood, even if it would save his life. But he leaves his crew with the ideal of not leaving hatred for the next generation. A crew divided. In the aftermath, Arlong heads back to the scene, ready to rampage on the humans there, but is promptly stopped by Vice Admiral Borsalino, who would go on to become Admiral Kizaru. Arlong actually had an ulterior motive though, as when he's captured, he changes the story of Fisher Tiger's death to him being refused human blood instead of him refusing to take it, so that Tiger can be seen in a better light in his final moments. Following Jinbe as their new leader, the Sun Pirates continued their voyage. Eventually, he is extended an offer to join the warlords from the world government, and his crew is surprised by his answer of accepting it. Jinbe's logic here is that they won't have to live a life on the run anymore, especially for the former slaves of the crew, as well as making an easier path for Otohime's wish of increasing human and fishman relations, as he knows that's what Tiger would want. Along with this decision, he was able to get a pardon for Arlong. Even with the help out of jail, Arlong has disdain for Jinbe's decision, because the Marines were the ones who killed Fisher Tiger. Jinbe reminds him of their late brother Tiger's wishes of not harboring hatred. Arlong basically tells him to fuck off, and that he's soft now. Arlong decides to go back to being the Arlong Pirates with his old crew, and is going to go his own way, as the symbol of Fishman's wrath. He gives Jinbe the ultimatum that if he wants to stop him, then he should kill him right there and then. Jinbe starts dog walking Arlong, and if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know this ass whooping used to be a part of my very early videos intro that I had. If you're curious, I'll add a card to one of my old videos, but warning, because they're not that good at that time. Anyway, the other Sun Pirates stop Jinbe, and Jinbe has to let out all these emotions that he has. It's clear that he was frustrated that his brother was so damn hard-headed, but he also knew he didn't have it in him to end him. Afterwards, the Sun Pirates divided even more so, as several members went their separate ways. Arlong would go on to be a terror on the East Blue, and especially Nami, something that would crush Jinbe's heart upon learning of what occurred, a full circle moment. After successfully meeting with the Celestial Dragons after saving St. Milesguard's life, we know that Hime finally receives the support of the people for her signatures, only to tragically be shot down. Jinbe is shown who the shooter was by one of Neptune's army, and it turns out to be a human pirate. Jinbe, extremely heavy-hearted, tells them to hide the body, as he knows that if this got out, it would ruin all the hard work Otohime had done for the past 5 years up to that point. However, a young Horty Jones, working in Neptune's army, says fuck that, and holds him up, exclaiming that this human killed the beloved queen. The next generation. One of the main themes of Fishman Island is how the next generation has to come to their own conclusions about the world. A child can truly be a blank slate that takes in new information and decides for themselves what makes sense as they grow and experience more of the world as they get older. We can see how mentality can change through the generations. Arlong and Jinbe both looked up to Fisher Tiger, who was extremely pro-Fishman. Neither really agreed with Orihime because they believed that humanity was in the wrong to begin with. Fisher Tiger had to explain to both that Orihime's ideal is what they truly should strive for, and that ultimately he's all about liberation of fishmen and not destruction of humanity. Jinbe took these words to heart, while Arlong heard what he wanted to hear, because ultimately it couldn't change the feeling in his heart. This was doubled down on after Fisher Tiger's death. As Jinbe continued to grow as a person, he believed more and more of what Orihime was saying, and grows past even the heart of Fisher Tiger by sharing blood with Luffy at the end of the arc. The one thing I wish there was is a young fishman that looked up to Jinbe and went on to be a prominent character, as Arlong has Horty Jones to carry on his will, and Jinbe himself took on Fisher Tiger's ultimate ideal, while Orihime's children continued hers. You could say Koala maybe, but honestly I think she's also kind of off the Fisher Tiger tree. One of the best moments in Fishman Island is once his flashback is over, and we get to see Nami absolve Jinbe for fault and what happened to her at the hands of Arlong, and the weight that's lifted off of Jinbe's spirit because of it.